So we've all had to clean our room, our parents are telling us, clean your room, you finally clean it, but you stop because you're sidetracked by something that you've had for so many years that you realize, well, I can still use this, I don't have to throw it away yet. That is my little sister. She has not thrown away any of her toys since she was 5. She's 13 now, and she still has American Girl dolls stacked up against my wall because we share a room. It's probably the worst thing ever because dolls freak me out. But the way that she looks at it is she gets to keep the dolls for however long she wants to be the baby of the family, and then she gets the chance to give the dolls to our cousins. We have several cousins in my family, and about 4 of them are girls that are younger than my little sister. So if you keep a thing for 7 years, you are sure to find a use for it. To her, she will find a use for all her toys by giving them to my cousins. For me, I have several sketchbooks, some I've never even touched, but they're still in an area where I can find them. And whenever I'm bored or I can't concentrate, I grab one of them and I start doodling. So I've had one of my sketchbooks since I was about 9, and I'm 18 now, so I've had it for 9 years, and I still go back to it and see if I've progressed at all. Some of them I have, some of them not really. I progress in my sister's projects, but I do not progress in my doodles. But for any one of you guys, if you have something for a long period of time, if you think about it, if you really don't have a use for it, you should really just give it away. It's just clogging up a bunch of space. I don't agree with the quote at all. I think it's just providing more clutter, and it's an excuse for people to hold a bunch of stuff that they don't need. My room is a very good example of it because of all my little sister's toys and schoolwork that she deems very important. But she has stuff from kindergarten that could be in storage. She has toys that she doesn't touch at all. I may have some sketchbooks, but I've gotten rid of a lot of them. So honestly, if you have stuff that you have had for several years, but you haven't used it, odds are you're really not going to find a use for it.
Well, I like the examples that you have with your sister and her toy collection and your own example with the sketchbooks and the way you contrasted the two of them. I think you've got a good point that you make at the end of the speech concerning the subject matter, but there ought to be a setup at the beginning of the speech that tells us that that's sort of where you're going. You dive right in with the example of your sister, and I think it's a good example, and it gives you something to talk about, but we never get around to hearing what the point is that we're going to get from hearing about your sister's story. And I think that even though you have a nice conclusion there, disagreeing with the quote and telling us to kind of get rid of the clutter. That I'm not sure why that wasn't early on in the presentation, and then the story would illustrate our need for that. So organizationally, it's a little bit problematic as a consequence, but the like I said, the material that you talked about I thought was interesting, and you know, like I said, you did a good job telling those stories. For the most part, presentation issues, everything is solid. Your voice projects well. There's nice variety when you're telling the story. It's moving along pretty quickly. I appreciated that you didn't try to stretch it out and find something else to say after the two examples you had. You realized, you know, I've made my point, and it's better to get off the stage at this point, and I think that that's a good strategy. Your eye contact is really solid with me. I don't know about the rest of the audience. I think everybody else gets a little bit excluded. You're all focused and very much in the front of the room here, or in the center, I should say, of the room. And then probably a third of the way through the speech, you slowed down a little bit on the nervous leg swinging, but there was still some of that. There's a nice little kick that you do at one point that it looks like you're practicing for a ballet move. So that's where all your anxiety seems to be coming out. Like I said at the end, I thought you had a nice solid exit that kind of confirmed the point that you were trying to make. And even though maybe that was a little problematic at the beginning, at least it was clear at the end, which is a good way to finish off. Thank you.